Han wiped the sweat from his forehead as he fixed another broken pipe in the lower levels of New Seoul Station. Being one of the few human engineers on the station meant he often got the tough jobs that needed small, careful hands. The aliens who built the station had made everything too big. "Han, we need you in Section 4, his radio crackled. "The air filters are acting up again." "On my way," he replied, packing his tools. As he walked through the wide corridors, aliens of different shapes and sizes moved past him. Some nodded in greeting, while others just stared. Even after 5 years, some species still found humans strange to look at. The station's curved windows showed the stars outside and Earth's colony ships in the distance. Humans had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago, but they had already made themselves useful. Han smiled, thinking about how his own story was proof of that. He checked his watch. Almost dinner time. Sun would be waiting for him at home. His wife worked as a cultural liaison on the upper levels, helping different species understand each other. She was good at her job, maybe too good. That's how they had met. Han remembered that day clearly. He had been fixing a broken door when a beautiful Korean woman walked past, talking to a tall, blue-skinned alien about Earth's music. She had stopped, looked at him working, and asked if humans always fixed things themselves instead of using robots. That question had led to a 2-hour talk about human ingenuity, and later to dinner. The memory made him smile as he reached Section 4. The air filter problem wasn't hard to fix, just a misaligned sensor that confused the alien computer systems. Humans were good at finding simple solutions to problems that confused the more advanced aliens. That's why the station kept hiring more of them. "Good work, Han," said Tech, his alien supervisor. Tech looked like a tall praying mantis, but he was one of the friendlier aliens on the station. "You should go home now. Your mate will be waiting." Han nodded and headed to the transport tube. As it carried him to the residential level, he thought about how lucky he was. Not many humans had alien friends or married Korean women who worked with aliens. Most humans still lived in the Earth colonies, afraid to mix with other species. The door to their apartment slid open with a soft hiss. Their home was a mix of Korean and human styles, with traditional floor cushions next to modern space furniture. The smell of kimchi and rice filled the air. "I'm home," Han called out. Sun appeared from the kitchen, her dark hair tied back neatly. She wore her official station uniform, which meant she had just returned from a diplomatic meeting. "Welcome home," she said, giving him a quick kiss. "How was your day?" "Fixed 3 pipes, 2 doors, and 1 air filter," he said, sitting down at their low table. "How about yours?" Sun served the food, a mix of Korean dishes and alien vegetables they had grown to like. "Had a meeting with the new Taurian diplomats," she said, frowning slightly. "They're difficult, very proud of their strength and military power. They don't understand why humans are allowed to have such important jobs on the station." "They'll learn," Han said calmly, starting to eat. "Everyone does, eventually." Sun nodded, but she still looked worried. "I hope so. But some species don't like change. The Taurians especially. They think physical strength is everything. They look down on humans because we're smaller than most species. Size isn't everything," Han reminded her, reaching for her hand across the table. "We've proved that many times." They ate quietly for a while, watching the stars through their window. The station's artificial day cycle was turning to evening, making the lights dim slowly. "By the way," Sun said, "there's a big diplomatic meeting tomorrow. All species will be there. The Taurian ambassador requested me specifically as the cultural liaison." "That's good, right?" Han asked. "It means they respect your work." Sun nodded slowly. "I hope so. But something feels different about these Taurians. They're not like the other aliens we've worked with." Han squeezed her hand gently. "You'll handle it well. You always do. And if there's any problem, I'm just a call away." Little did they know how important those words would become in the days ahead. For now, they enjoyed their peaceful evening together. Two people from Earth making a life among the stars, showing the galaxy that humans could adapt to anything. The next morning, Han noticed something different about the station. The usual friendly nods from alien workers had stopped. Instead, they moved aside when he walked past, whispering among themselves. Something had changed overnight. In the engineering room, Tech was waiting for him. The mantis-like alien's antennae were twitching, a sign of worry that Han had learned to recognize. "Han, my friend," Tech said quietly, "be careful today. The new Taurian delegation has been talking about humans." "What kind of talk?" Han asked, checking his tool belt. "They say humans are too weak to work important jobs. They want their own people to take over engineering and diplomatic positions." Tech's mandibles clicked nervously. "They are especially angry about mixed marriages." Han's hand stopped moving. "Mixed marriages, like me and Sun." "Yes, the Taurian diplomat, Kerr, he is old-fashioned. He believes species should not mix." Tech moved closer. "Watch out for him. He is big, even for a Taurian." Han nodded and went to work, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought about Sun, heading to her diplomatic meeting with these same Taurians. She could handle herself. She had dealt with difficult aliens before. Still, something felt wrong. During his lunch break, Han watched the station's news feeds. The main story showed the Taurian delegation arriving at the diplomatic sector. They were impressive, each one at least 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin that looked like armor. Their leader, Kree, walked in front, his head held high, 4 arms crossed over his chest. Han noticed how the other aliens stepped aside, bowing slightly as the Taurians passed. Not out of respect, he realized, but fear. The Taurians were known as warriors, and their empire was one of the largest in the galaxy. A message from Sun popped up on his comm device. "Meeting getting tense. Kerr keeps interrupting everyone. Says humans are ruining station culture." Han typed back, "Stay safe. Call if you need me." In the afternoon, Han had to fix something in the diplomatic sector. As he worked on a broken door panel, he could hear voices from inside the meeting room. One voice was louder than the others, deep and angry. "Look at this station," the voice boomed. It had to be Kerr. "Humans everywhere, touching our technology, changing our ways. They are barely out of their own solar system, and already they think they are equal to us. The humans have proven themselves valuable members of our community," another voice said. Han recognized it as the station's director. "Their different way of thinking helps solve problems. Problems we never had before they arrived." Kerr interrupted. "They are physically weak, yet you give them important jobs. They marry our people, spreading their influence. It must stop." Han's hands tightened on his tools. He wanted to walk in there, to defend his people, but he knew that would only make things worse. Instead, he focused on fixing the door, listening as the argument continued. Through the panel, he could see Sun standing at her podium. She looked calm, but Han knew her well enough to see she was worried. Other aliens in the room were shifting uncomfortably as Kree continued his speech. "The Taurian Empire demands changes," Kree declared. "First, all humans must be removed from sensitive positions: engineering, diplomacy, security. These are not jobs for weak species. Second, mixed marriages must be discouraged. Third, those demands go against station law." Sun spoke up, her voice firm but polite. "All species have equal rights here. That includes humans." Kree turned to her, all 4 fists clenched. "You dare interrupt me? A human lover like you has no right to speak in this council." The room got very quiet. Han held his breath, watching through the gap in the panel. Sun stood her ground, looking straight at the massive Taurian. "I speak as this station's cultural liaison," she said. "My personal life is not relevant to this discussion." Han finished fixing the door and quietly packed his tools. As he walked away, he could still hear the argument behind him. Things were getting worse, not better. He sent another message to Sun. Finished work early. I'll wait for you at home. But as he headed home, Han couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. The peaceful life they had built on the station was changing, and the change had just begun. The diplomatic meeting continued for 3 more hours. Sun stood at her podium, trying to keep everyone calm as tempers rose. The room felt hot and crowded with so many different species arguing about humans. Krur, the Taurian diplomat, kept getting angrier. His gray skin had turned darker, a sign of rage in his species. Every time someone defended humans, he would slam one of his 4 fists on the table. This is a waste of time, Krur growled. We Taurians built half this station. We fought wars to protect this sector. And now we must listen to a human tell us about cultural respect. Sun took a deep breath. Respect goes both ways. Ambassador Krur, humans have earned their place here through hard work and... Hard work. Krur laughed, a harsh sound that made others in the room flinch. What do humans know of hard work? Your species is soft, weak. You cannot even lift the tools we use. Physical strength isn't everything. Sun said calmly. Humans bring different skills. My husband, for example, fixes problems that... Your husband? Krur's eyes narrowed. You are married to one of them. He looked disgusted. This is worse than I thought. Our cultural liaison, corrupted by human influence. The station director tried to speak. Ambassador, please. Personal attacks are not allowed in this council. But Krur wasn't listening. He stood up, all 9 feet of him towering over the table. I will not be lectured about culture by a human's mate. He started walking toward Sun's podium. Other diplomats moved back. Everyone knew how dangerous an angry Taurian could be. The security guards, a mix of different alien species, looked nervous. Sun didn't move. She stood straight, looking up at Krur. Ambassador, please return to your seat. We can discuss this civilly. Civilly? Krur roared. Like humans? Pretending to be peaceful while you take over our stations, marry our people, change our ways. He was right in front of her podium now. You are not even worth talking to. It happened fast. Krur's upper right fist swung out, hitting Sun across the face. She fell backward, hitting the ground hard. The room exploded in chaos. Security guards rushed forward. Other diplomats shouted. The station director was calling for medical help. That will teach you respect, Krur said, standing over Sun. He didn't seem to care about the guards approaching him. Now you know how Taurians deal with disrespect. Sun touched her face where he had hit her. There was blood. But instead of looking scared, she smiled slightly. No, Ambassador, she said quietly. You just showed everyone why humans are different. We don't solve problems with violence. You dare mock me. Krur tried to step closer, but guards had finally reached him. Let go of me. I have diplomatic immunity. The station's cameras had recorded everything. Within minutes, the news was spreading through every level. A Taurian diplomat had attacked the human cultural liaison. The video was already being shared on all channels. In the engineering section, Han was fixing a broken lift when his comm device started buzzing with messages. He opened the first one and saw the video. His tools clattered to the floor as he watched Krur hit Sun. Tech rushed over. Han, I just saw. I'm so sorry. Medical reports say she's okay, just bruised. But Han wasn't listening. His face had gone very quiet and still. Those who knew humans well would recognize that look. It wasn't fear or sadness. It was something else, something that made even Tech step back. Where is she? Han asked, his voice cold and calm. Medical Bay, Level 4, Tech said. But Han, be careful. The Taurian has diplomatic immunity. You can't touch him. I know, Han said, picking up his tools with steady hands. I won't touch him. Not yet. He started walking toward the medical bay. But he's going to learn something very important about humans. What's that? Tech called after him. Han stopped and looked back. We protect our family. And we're very, very good at finding legal ways to do it. As Han walked away, Tech noticed something strange. Other aliens were moving aside, just like they did for the Taurians. But this time, it wasn't out of fear. They had seen that look on Han's face too. It was the look of a human who had just declared war. Han sat beside Sun's bed in the medical bay. The doctors had treated her bruised face, but the mark from Kerr's punch was still visible. She was sleeping now, peaceful despite everything that had happened. "Your wife will be fine," the alien doctor said. He looked like a tall blue octopus in a white coat. Taurian strikes are usually fatal to smaller species, but humans are surprisingly tough. She's lucky. Lucky, Han repeated quietly. He hadn't raised his voice once since arriving. Some aliens found this strange. They expected human mates to be loud and angry when their partners were hurt. The doctor waved one tentacle at his screens. "She can go home tomorrow. The station guards want to talk to her about pressing charges, but," he paused, "well, with diplomatic immunity, there's not much they can do." Han nodded and kept holding Sun's hand. But his other hand was busy with his comm device, searching through station records and legal documents. He had already downloaded everything about Taurian culture, biology, and law. Other humans from the station started arriving. Engineers, technicians, teachers, all coming to check on Sun and offer help. They spoke quietly among themselves, sharing angry looks. "We can't let them get away with this," one engineer whispered. "But what can we do? They're 3 times our size," another added. Han kept reading. The others watched him, waiting. They had worked with him long enough to know that quiet Han was thinking Han, and thinking Han usually found solutions. Tech arrived next, his mantis-like form barely fitting through the medical bay door. "Han, my friend, the station is in chaos. The Taurians are claiming it was a cultural misunderstanding. They say Sun insulted their honor by speaking back to Kerr." "Did they?" Han asked, not looking up from his device. "Interesting. Can you tell me more about Taurian honor, Tech?" The alien engineer's antennae twitched. "They are very serious about it. Everything must be solved through proper channels, proper challenges. Even their wars follow strict rules." "Rules," Han said softly. "Everyone has rules." He was reading something that made his eyes narrow slightly. "Tell me, Tech, what happens if someone challenges a Taurian's honor directly? Through their own customs?" Tech clicked his mandibles nervously. "Well, they must accept the challenge or lose all status. But Han, you can't be thinking. They're too strong. No human can fight a Taurian." "Fight?" Han smiled slightly. "Who said anything about fighting? I'm just reading about their customs, like this interesting one about formal challenges requiring both parties to follow ancient Taurian laws. Laws that say size and strength don't matter, only the challenge itself." The other humans in the room started gathering around Han. They could see something on his comm device, old Taurian legal texts that no one had bothered to read in years. "Look here," Han pointed. "A challenged Taurian must accept any form of contest the challenger chooses, as long as it follows their traditional forms. And the challenger can pick the time, place, and type of challenge." But Tech's antennae were twitching faster now. "You're not thinking of challenging Kerr. He's a diplomat, a warrior." "No," Han said calmly. "I'm thinking of using his own rules against him. Rules he can't ignore without losing everything he values." He looked up at the security camera in the corner of the room. "And thanks to station security, we have video proof of his crime. Proof that gives me the right to make this challenge." Sun stirred in her sleep, and Han quickly checked on her. When he looked back at the others, his eyes were cold and focused. "I need everything you can find about Taurian weak points," he told the gathered humans. "Not for fighting. For knowledge. I need to know how they think, how they move, what they expect. Most importantly, I need to know what kind of challenge would be worst for them." The other humans nodded and started using their own devices, searching and sharing information. They worked quietly, efficiently, like humans always did when solving problems. Tech watched them with growing amazement. He had expected rage, violence, or fear. Instead, he saw humans doing what they did best, finding the exact right way to solve a problem. Humans, he clicked to himself, are terrifying when they're quiet. The next day, the main meeting hall of New Seoul Station was packed. Word had spread that something big was going to happen. Aliens of all species crowded the space, their eyes fixed on the Taurian delegation's table. Chris sat there, looking bored. His forearms were crossed over his chest as he talked with other Taurians. They seemed amused about yesterday's events, as if hitting Sun had been nothing important. The station director, a tall purple alien, stood at the main podium. This emergency meeting will now begin. We are here to discuss yesterday's incident. There is nothing to discuss, Curry said loudly. The human female showed disrespect. She was punished according to our ways. Case closed. A door opened at the back of the hall. Han walked in, dressed in his engineering uniform. The room went quiet as he walked straight to the center of the hall. Sun walked beside him, her face still showing the mark from yesterday. Not closed, Han said. His voice wasn't loud, but everyone could hear it. According to Taurian law, Section 47 of the ancient codes, I have the right to challenge you. Kerr laughed, a booming sound. Challenge me? You? A tiny human. The other Taurians joined in the laughter. Han held up his comm device. A hologram appeared in the air, showing ancient Taurian text. By the laws of your own people, when a Taurian noble strikes someone's mate, their family has the right to issue a formal challenge. Size doesn't matter. Species doesn't matter. Only honor matters. The laughter stopped. Curry stood up, his gray skin darkening with anger. You dare quote our laws to me? I do. Han stepped forward. I challenge you, Ambassador Kerr, under the ancient codes. As the wronged party, I choose the type of challenge. Other Taurians were whispering now, looking worried. They knew their laws well. If Kerr refused a proper challenge, he would lose all honor and his position. What challenge could you possibly offer me, human? Kerr growled. You cannot even lift our weapons. The challenge is this, Han said calmly. In 3 days, we will meet in the station's main cargo bay. There, we will test our skills at something humans are very good at, solving problems. The room burst into confused whispers. This wasn't what anyone expected. Problems. Kerr's eyes narrowed. What problems? Engineering problems. Repairs. Puzzles. Things that need thinking, not just strength. Han smiled slightly. Unless you're afraid to match your mind against a tiny human. The trap was perfect. If Kerr refused, he would look weak. If he accepted, he would have to face Han in a human's type of challenge. The other Taurians knew it too. They were shifting uncomfortably in their seats. You think you can trick me? Kerr slammed all 4 fists on his table. Fine. I accept your challenge, human. In 3 days, I will crush you at your own game. Then we will see who is superior. Han nodded once. Remember the ancient codes, Ambassador. The winner's word becomes law to the loser. If I win, you will apologize to my wife and leave this station forever. And when I win, Chris snarled, you and all humans will learn your proper place, serving stronger species. The station director quickly stepped in. The challenge is accepted and witnessed. In 3 days, as the human has chosen. Until then, both parties are bound by the ancient codes. No contact, no practice together, no interference. As the crowd began to break up, Tech hurried to Han's side. Are you sure about this? Taurians may be proud, but they're not stupid. Crew will study everything about engineering before the challenge. I hope he does, Han said quietly. But there's one thing he won't understand, no matter how much he studies. What's that? Han took Sun's hand and smiled. Humans don't just solve problems. We think of solutions no one else would even imagine. And when we're protecting someone we love, we think of the best solutions of all. The cargo bay was already being prepared for the challenge. In 3 days, everyone would see exactly what humans could do when they put their minds to it. For the next 2 days, Han barely slept. He spent every free moment in his workshop, surrounded by broken machines and parts. Other humans brought him equipment from all over the station, creating a mountain of mechanical puzzles. "You should rest," Sun said, bringing him food. Her bruise was healing, but the memory of Kru's attack still made Han's hands tighten on his tools. "I will," he said, not looking up from the device he was fixing. "After I figure out how Taurians think about machines." Sun sat beside him, watching him work. "You know their training career, right?" The other Taurians brought their best engineers to teach him. Han nodded. "Good. Let them teach him their way of fixing things." "That's exactly what I want." Tech visited often, bringing information about Taurian technology. "They like big solutions," he explained, his mantis-like form moving nervously. "When something breaks, they replace the whole thing. They don't understand small repairs." "That's their weakness," Han said, taking apart another broken device. "They think bigger is better. They never look for the simple answer." In another part of the station, Kurt was indeed training. The Taurians had turned their diplomatic suite into an engineering practice room. Kree sat surrounded by alien machines, his 4 arms working on different parts at once. "Faster," his trainer shouted. "Humans are quick with their hands. You must be quicker." Kree growled in frustration as another device fell apart in his hands. "This is beneath me. Warriors shouldn't have to fix machines." "The human trapped you cleverly," his trainer said. "He knew we think of engineering as lower work. But now your honor is at stake. You must win." Back in his workshop, Han was teaching himself something different. He studied videos of Taurians moving, fighting, working. He watched how their 4 arms moved together, how they thought about problems. "What are you looking for?" Sun asked, seeing him replay the same videos again and again. "Patterns," Han said. "Everyone has patterns. The way they move, the way they think. Find the pattern, and you can predict what they'll do next." Other humans on the station helped in their own ways. Some brought food and drinks to keep Han going. Others shared stories about working with Taurian machines. Each piece of information was another tool Han could use. The night before the challenge, Sun found Han sitting quietly in their apartment. He wasn't working on machines anymore. Instead, he was looking at old pictures of them together. "Remember our first date?" he asked, showing her a photo. "When you asked me why humans fix things ourselves." Sun smiled. "You said it was because we like to understand how things work, not just fix them, but make them better." "That's what the Taurians don't understand," Han said. "They think this challenge is about who can fix things faster, but it's not." He took her hand gently. "It's about who understands them better." "I'm still worried," Sun admitted. "Kerr is strong, and now he's had training." "Strength isn't everything," Han reminded her. "Besides, I'm not just doing this for us anymore." He showed her his comm device, full of messages from other humans and aliens on the station. All of them supporting him, believing in him. Everyone's watching. Sun realized. This isn't just about Kerr's punch anymore. "No," Han agreed. "It's about showing everyone that humans belong here. That we're not just strong enough or smart enough. We're different enough to make things better." That night, as Han finally slept, the cargo bay was being prepared. The station's engineers had set up dozens of broken machines, puzzles, and problems to solve. Tomorrow, everyone would watch a human and a Taurian compete in a very different kind of battle. And Han smiled in his sleep, because he knew something Kerr didn't. Sometimes the smallest solution could solve the biggest problem. The cargo bay was packed with spectators. Aliens of every species crowded the viewing platforms, talking excitedly. In the center of the bay, 20 broken machines sat on tables. They ranged from tiny data pads to huge engine parts. Han stood at one end of the room, wearing his regular work uniform. His tool belt looked tiny compared to the massive one Kura wore as the Torian entered from the other side. "The challenge will have 3 parts," the station director announced. "First, diagnose what's wrong with each machine. Second, fix them. Third, improve them. You have 2 hours. Begin." Kura immediately rushed to the biggest machine, his 4 arms grabbing tools. He started taking it apart, pieces flying everywhere. The other Torians cheered. Han walked slowly to the smallest machine first, a broken datapad. He turned it over carefully in his hands, studying it. Some aliens in the crowd laughed, thinking he was afraid of the bigger challenges. "Look at the human," someone said, too scared to try the real machines. But Sun, watching from the front row, smiled. She knew what Han was doing. He always said every problem had a pattern, and the smallest problem often showed you how to solve the biggest ones. After 5 minutes, Han had diagnosed the data pad without even opening it. He moved to the next machine, then the next, just looking and thinking. Meanwhile, Kuri had completely dismantled the big engine, parts scattered around him. "First machine diagnosed," Kuri shouted triumphantly, holding up a broken part from the engine. 10 machines diagnosed," Han said quietly, still moving between tables. The room got very quiet. While Kuri had been fighting with one machine, Han had found the problems in half of them. "Impossible," Kuri roared. "You haven't even opened them." "I didn't need to," Han explained, still studying machines. "They all have the same basic patterns. Once you understand the pattern, you can see what's wrong." The next hour was intense. Kurt worked frantically, his 4 arms blur of motion as he fixed machines the Torian way, with strength and speed. Parts were replaced, components rebuilt, everything done with maximum power. Han worked differently. He fixed each machine with minimum effort, using small tools and careful movements. Where Kurt replaced parts, Han repaired them. Where Kurt used force, Han used patience. 15 machines fixed, Kuri announced, sweat dripping from his gray skin. 20 machines fixed, Han responded. Moving to improvements now. The crowd gasped. Han had fixed everything, and there was still time left. But what happened next amazed them even more. Han went back to each machine, making small changes. He took apart from one to improve another. He combined simple fixes to solve complex problems. Soon, the machines weren't just fixed, they were better than new. "Time's up," the director called. "Judges will now test the repairs." The judges went to Kru's machines first. They worked, but roughly. Some made loud noises, others used too much power. They were fixed, but not improved. Then they tested Han's machines. The data pad was now faster than before. The engine used less fuel. Every machine worked better than when it was new. "How?" Kru demanded. "How did you beat me? I am stronger. I had 4 arms. I had the best training." Han walked over to the big engine Kru had struggled with. "Look here," he said, pointing to a tiny part. "This small piece controls everything. Fix this, and the whole machine works better. You didn't see it because you were looking for big problems that needed big solutions." He turned to face Kure. "That's what humans understand. Sometimes the smallest change makes the biggest difference. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit something. It's about knowing where and when to make the right move." The judges huddled together, but everyone already knew who had won. Han hadn't just beaten Kure. He had shown everyone a better way to solve problems. In the crowd, Sun watched proudly as the other aliens looked at her husband with new respect. Today, they had learned an important lesson about humans. Never judge them by their size. The cargo bay was silent as the judges made their official announcement. The winner is Han. By the ancient codes of the Torian people, his victory must be honored. Kru stood frozen, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. For the first time in his life, he looked small. The other Taurians behind him whispered among themselves, shocked that their champion had lost to a human. According to the challenge terms, the station director said, Ambassador Curry must apologize to Sun and leave the station permanently. Everyone watched as Kerr walked slowly towards Sun. His gray skin had turned pale, and his usual proud stance was gone. He stopped in front of her, and to everyone's surprise, dropped to one knee. I was wrong, he said, his deep voice quiet but clear. I thought strength was only about power. I thought humans were weak because they were small. He looked at the machines Han had fixed and improved. I have learned differently today. Sun nodded, accepting his apology. But Kerr wasn't finished. Before I leave, he said, standing up, I must send a message to my people. They need to know what I learned here. He turned to face the crowd. The human did not just beat me. He showed me a better way. Our ways are not always the best ways. The other aliens in the cargo bay started talking excitedly. No one had ever heard a Taurian admit they could learn from another species. Han walked over to one of the machines he had fixed, the big engine Kura had struggled with. Would you like me to show you how I did it? He asked Kura. Before you go. The Taurian looked surprised. You would teach me, after what I did. Humans don't hold grudges when we can make friends instead, Han said. That's another kind of strength. For the next hour, Han showed Kree how he had fixed and improved the machines. Other aliens gathered around to watch and learn. Even the other Taurians came closer, their pride forgotten in their curiosity. See this small part? Han explained. It's like a key. Fix this, and everything else works better. He handed Kerr a tiny tool. Try it yourself. Kerr's huge hands, used to handling big tools and weapons, carefully took the small tool. With Han's guidance, he made a small adjustment to the engine. It hummed to life, running smoother than ever. I understand now, Kerr said softly. We Taurians always look for big solutions, big changes. We never thought to look for the small things that make big differences. News of what happened spread quickly through the station. Aliens who had looked down on humans started asking them questions, wanting to learn their ways of solving problems. The engineering section, where Han worked, became crowded with visitors from all species. That evening, Han and Sun sat in their apartment, looking out at the stars. The station felt different now. Aliens who had ignored them before now nodded respectfully when they passed. You did more than win a challenge today, Sun said, holding his hand. You changed how they see all humans. We did it together, Han replied. Your courage in standing up to Curry started everything. I just finished what you began. Their comm device beeped. It was a message from the Taurian homeworld. They had reviewed the challenge recordings and made a surprising decision. They wanted to start an exchange program, sending young Taurians to learn human engineering methods. They want you to be the first teacher. Sun read, smiling. Han looked thoughtful. Maybe we can all learn from each other. Taurian strength and human innovation together could solve problems neither of us could fix alone. Outside their window, a Taurian ship was preparing to leave, carrying Curry away from the station. But he wasn't leaving in shame as planned. Instead, he was leaving with new knowledge, new respect, and a story to tell his people about the day a small human taught him the true meaning of strength. 3 months after the challenge, New Seoul Station had changed completely. The engineering section, once filled only with aliens, now had humans and Taurians working side by side. Young Taurians sat at small workbenches, learning to use tiny tools with their large hands. Han walked through the section, stopping to help when needed. Gentle, he told a frustrated Taurian student struggling with a datapad. Let the tool do the work. You don't need to force it. The student nodded, trying again with less strength. The broken screen came apart easily, making the young Taurian smile with all his teeth showing. Han is right, Tech said, clicking his mandibles happily. Since humans showed us their ways, repair costs have dropped by half. Even my people are learning their methods. In the diplomatic section, Sun's work had also changed. Her office was now bigger, and aliens from all species came to learn about human culture. The mark from Kerr's punch had faded completely, but the lesson it taught remained. Humans are different, she explained to a group of alien diplomats. We're not the strongest or the biggest, but we see solutions others miss. We turn enemies into friends. We find strength in working together. The station's halls were different too. Humans walked freely now, respected by all species. Mixed couples like Han and Sun were no longer rare. Other aliens had learned that humans made good friends, good teachers, and good partners. Messages arrived daily from other stations and planets, all asking for human engineers and teachers. The story of Han's victory over Kerr had spread far across the galaxy. But it wasn't the victory they wanted to learn about. It was what happened after. Is it true? Visitors would ask. Did the human really teach the Taurian who hurt his mate? Did they really become friends? The answer came from Kerr himself. Though he had left the station as promised, he sent regular messages. He was now teaching at the Taurian Military Academy, showing young warriors that true strength came in many forms. My students learn engineering first, he wrote. Before they touch a weapon, they must fix a datapad. It teaches patience, understanding, and respect for all ways of solving problems. One evening, Han and Sun hosted a dinner party in their apartment. The guests included Tech, several Taurian students, and aliens from 5 different species. They sat together, sharing food and stories, laughing at how things used to be. Remember when some species wouldn't even talk to humans? Tech asked, carefully picking up a piece of kimchi with his mandibles. Now they won't stop talking to us, Sun laughed. Yesterday, a Taurian asked me to teach him how to cook Korean food. Han smiled, watching everyone enjoy the meal together. On their wall hung 2 items, the small tool he had used to win the challenge, and beside it, a huge Taurian engineering medal. Kerr had sent it last week, with a note saying Han had earned it by teaching Taurians a better way. You know what's funny? Han said to the group. All this started because someone thought humans were weak. Now everyone knows that being different isn't the same as being weak. A young Taurian student raised his hand. Teacher Han, is it true that humans knew all along they could beat us? Why didn't you just fight us directly? Han shook his head. Fighting only proves who's stronger. Teaching proves who's wiser. And sharing what we know makes everyone stronger. Sun took his hand under the table, squeezing it gently. Outside their window, the stars shone as always. But the galaxy felt smaller now, friendlier. Humans had found their place among the stars not through force or fear, but by showing others a different way to be strong. To the future, Tech proposed a toast, raising his cup with his front leg. To learning from each other, the Taurian students added. To small solutions to big problems, Han and Sun said together. As they all drank together, Han thought about how one small challenge had led to such big changes. Sometimes, the greatest victories weren't won through strength or power, but through the courage to show others a better way. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate humans, not because they were dangerous, but because they could turn any enemy into a friend, any problem into a solution, and any difference into a strength.